See Brown in your face.
Have you heard of Everything at Once?
Do you know about Everything at Once?
It's internationally known.
Aliens listen to it.
It's the best ever.
If there's something you're looking for in the 814, or feeling a little bored and think there ain't no more, check out Everything at Once and allow it to be your source. It's that raw podcast that's always showing support, highlighting the scene. No need to take I-90 to Peep or 79 to see how it be. Interviewing your locals with mindsets that are global. Innovators and creators on every single upload. So much going on in the EPA.
Incredible content.
Everything at Once will keep you up to date.
Amazing guests.
What you doing? Come through and hang with Tony and Dave.
Community driven.
Bringing everything at once from around the way. Everything at once from around the way. Hey.
Please listen. We love you. Everything at Once.
Everything at Once.
It's time to introduce this show.
The best show on the face of the planet.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in today. We want to thank our Patreon producers, Brian G., Josh W., Ian D., Nick G., and Sadie M.
Patreon, it's an awesome way to support the show and say thanks. You can become a Patreon supporter by clicking the link below and choosing to be an intern, assistant, or producer level supporter.
If being on the production team is too much pressure for you, you can also send any contributions using our Venmo at Everything at Once Studios. We now want to thank all the local businesses who supported this episode. These businesses get the Everything at Once stamp of approval and are critical members of the Everything at Once community. We couldn't do it without them. With winter approaching, are there any last minute details that you want to change or renovate around your home?
I might, but you know who to call.
Yeah, Ghostbusters!
No, Tony. No, not Ghostbusters. Solid State Construction.
Oh, yeah. Solid State.
Yeah.
Duh. Solid State takes pride in all their home remodeling projects. Solid State specializes in bathroom remodeling, kitchen renovation, window and door installation, custom design work, and more, including painting, flooring, drywall, sidewalk, decks. Get your free quote today by calling Nick at 814-397-7854. Solid people, solid product, Solid State Construction.
You know, Tony, with all these renovations from Solid State, I think we might have kicked up some bad energy around here. Yeah, oh yeah. Luckily, we know just the people to go see.
I know it this time. It's Ghostbusters.
No, Tony! Our friends at Cauldron and Thorne!
Wow. I feel really dumb right now, and I can't believe I didn't think of Cauldron and Thorne, the world's largest witchcraft and metaphysical shop, with everything a person needs to channel the spirit world.
Practice some self-care.
Find enlightenment.
Curse your enemies.
Protect yourself from your enemies.
Bless your friends.
Cleanse your space from negative energies. You can check out all the magical wares available at for these different practices we all love and enjoy at Cauldron and Thorne, 2724 West 8th Street, or online at cauldronandthorne.com.
This week, we have an incredible guest for you.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. Oh, morning. Good morning. Almost afternoon.
It's not morning at all, but you guys might be watching this in the morning, so good morning to you. And good morning, Jayna. Thank you so much for coming down here.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, folks.
This is the first time we've ever addressed the people by time, because usually we're pretty ambivalent towards when this is occurring, but today feels like morning. I'm a little tired. I didn't have my espresso today before we started this podcast. It was a bad move, yeah.
Rookie mistake.
Ah, gosh. You'd think I'd learn by now.
I traveled here with a coffee cup and spilled it all over myself like an idiot, so...
It's good, though, and I was really happy that you did that because I use a regular mug all the time instead of a travel mug, and my philosophy on that is any mug is a travel mug if you're brave enough.
I like it.
But like, what about finding mugs that actually fit in the cup holder? Or are you just like brave and like holding it the whole time?
It just, either way, it just depends on how brave you are.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like I had mine like this. You can't see, but it was on like my thigh.
Hold it.
I was on my thigh, and I hit a pothole, and it just.
Yeah,
Great
did you
start
forget
to
we
the
live in
podcast.
Erie?
Right.
Especially during this weird winter we're having.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that might actually end up saving us millions and millions of dollars on road
Salt.
construction every year. And salt. Because we don't have the ice breaking it up anymore. So maybe this is a net win for Erie County and a net loss
For the world.
The world at large. But Jayna, we're super excited to have you here. We met you guys a while ago. We met you a while ago, and I've been seeing lots of stuff. I've heard people talk about you, so it's cool to have you here to talk about what you've been doing and what you've been getting into. You're an artist, you're a writer, and we're just pumped to hear about what you're bringing to the table and how you're supporting this community, and yeah, all that stuff's real cool.
Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. And the main thing that we've been seeing you working on recently is your Words with Friends.
Words with Friends, yes. So Words with Friends is a reoccurring writing workshop that I'm hosting at Werner Books. My main goal with Words with Friends is to create a safe and inclusive community for all genres of writing. So it's not just poetry. I know how that's, a lot of people know me with poetry, but I want to introduce all genres, even musicians. I've had a lot of musicians reach out and they're like, hey, I'm stuck on some lyrics, or lyrics aren't my forefront. I just like to make the beats or the instrumentals. So just want to welcome everybody and start to build a community where we can branch off of each other. It's not a writing workshops where I'm like, oh, this is how you have to write. There's a right and a wrong way. No, it's how do you want to best express yourself? And Werner Books has an absolutely amazing environment to do that.
Yeah, we love those guys, Kyle and Lauren. They're definitely amazing, and I really appreciate your style of operating this thing, in that it is not a traditional workshop that I would think of as far as like going there and listening to somebody talk about how to write.
Yeah, and I'm not going to bore you with the history of writing, and even like with poetry, I'm like, oh, I know there's different types and rules. I follow none of them.
I have a very strict rule about poetry. Dave might remember it.
I can't remember, so re-enlighten me.
It's that poems need to rhyme.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, no, they don't. They definitely don't.
No, they absolutely do, and it's a hard, fast rule, and if it doesn't rhyme, then it's just not poetry in my brain.
My book leaves the chat.
Well, I remembered instantly when you started talking. So I went to school for English. That's what I got my degree in. And you're just flat out wrong.
I'm aware that many people disagree with me, but this is really something that I personally need to commit to when I'm writing poems.
Well, yeah, I guess that's
This is
okay.
my rule. I guess it doesn't apply to everybody, but I guess, there's just like, there's something about poems and them rhyming, and the ability to make any poem rhyme, I think, is a very special and a very powerful skill that people have or people don't have. And I think that really, to me, it's just like a mental flex to be able to write this poem and have these feelings and have the feelings and have the poem not be encumbered by words.
What? I can immediately tell that I would have a much better time at Jayna's workshop than if you had one. So,
See,
you'd be like, this doesn't fucking rhyme.
I wouldn't do that to other people, but I would just quietly judge them a little bit to myself, I think. So maybe this is not, that's why I don't have a writing workshop, clearly, and Jayna does. And I think that when you can apply your emotions with words, it just shows like an extra level of skill to be committed to rhyming those words together and still portray that goal emotion or that goal message that you're trying to put out there.
What do you think of rhyming poetry?
I love to rhyme, and I notice that's usually my brain's first defense, but I like to rhyme like the first and the third, or make it almost lyrical and trying to find a flow with it rather than like
Rhyming for the sake of rhyming.
yeah, like easy rhymes that elementary school kids can like figure out on like their test or something like that. But I love how passionate you are.
And I think that's like one of the big things too that I'm trying to say is you can't rhyme bat with cat because those rhyme. You still have to be able to write what your heart or what your soul or what your mind is trying to say and do it in a technical way that rhymes.
Yes.
With like double and triple syllable rhyme schemes.
Well, you would absolutely hate, I think, like, well, maybe you wouldn't, but like actual like old school like Renaissance like Shakespeare
Poetry.
period poetry, because it's not just rhyming at the end. It's about
The syllables.
the
and
syllables.
flow.
Yeah, like this the
What's it called?
God
That Shakespeare use. Iambic pentameter.
iambic pentameter.
See, I know
exactly.
I know Shakespeare, dude.
Exactly. But it makes it tough. It's another layer. You're not just rhyming. You're stressed
dude.
and unstressed.
The more
syllables.
layers. The more layers, the more technical, the more beautiful it ends up becoming, especially when it's not when the emotions and the feelings aren't sacrificed for the sake of rhyming.
I think that is definitely possible, but I think there's a lot of beauty in shattering what the norm is, like the rules, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what poetry is. You're kind of breaking into this ether of untapped feelings and emotions. So sometimes that goes beyond what the rules should be.
Well, yeah, because there shouldn't be a rule on how to express yourself, especially with art. Art is subjective. So whatever word, if it rhymes or not, if that's how you're feeling and that's how you want to portray that, then so be it. It's your world. We're all just living in it.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with you that people should write what they want to write and not give a fuck about the rules. But to me, it's not poetry anymore. But it still has its place and it's still beautiful and I still love it. And if people want to call it poetry, I completely respect that. And I'm really just being facetious here for all you guys. I'm joking. Like this is a bit of a meme, but I do especially like when poems rhyme.
So I'm definitely going to make a meme about you, and I'm going to bring it with me to Words with Friends of like, does it rhyme? No, then it's not a fucking poem.
That's right. Please do that. Maybe I'll be there. I'll come to one of them, and
They'll be like,
just be in the most judgy outfit.
Yeah,
and
I'll
like,
wear like a suit.
Can you bring like a monocle or something? And just
I'll
be
chop
like, does
these
it
glasses
rhyme?
in half.
Chop
and just
them in
wear the
half.
one.
They'll be like,
Tape them
oh
back
my
together.
God, it's the guy from the meme. Like,
It's the guy from the Monopoly. I didn't know this class would be judged by the Monopoly man. Holy
Right.
fuck. Got to bring my A game. But it's not just poetry.
Right. It's not just poetry. And I feel like a term that might put you at a little bit of ease is spoken word.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they ask me the difference between it, and there really is no difference, really. Maybe it's the difference of rhyming and not rhyming. Is it set up, with the syllables? Is it a haiku? Whatever the case may be. Spoken word, it's just that. You're speaking word. And there's more emphasis on, like, your tone and your performance, talking with your hands, as I keep doing.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
People like that.
Yeah, engagement. Yay.
Right, yeah. See, I'm moving around on the screen. Keep watching.
Yeah, so spoken word is definitely what I gravitate towards in talking about how I write and where I want to take my writing. But I also understand how intimidating that can be for people. And again, that's not everybody's forte. So it's like, some folks we have that love sci-fi. I also love fantasy, and I want to get into writing some fantasy novels. So it's like, how can we work together to get the ideas really flowing? And then if we have creative blocks, like that is every artist's enemy, is being blocked creatively.
Sure. And definitely a good way to get out of that is to talk to somebody about it.
Literally. There are voices on the outside of our heads, too. That's from one of my favorite spoken word poems by my favorite poet.
Who is it?
Levi the Poet. It's All Worth Living For is the 10-minute spoken word poem that I love.
Awesome. I've been doing some judging for speech and debate. I used to be a speech and debater, and people don't realize that there's two separate parts. There's speech and there's debate. So the speech people often read poems as part of like their performance, like that's their speech, and a lot of the poems don't ride, and I obviously make those kids lose. Just kidding. But I do my best to be as impartial as possible, but I think that being able to actually speak the words and to perform them for people led to a whole new level of just authenticity and like showing a different piece of yourself than just reading it off of paper. And both are good and both are great, and I enjoy reading lots of poetry, but seeing somebody it's like listening to an album versus seeing the band perform live in concert.
Do you remember
100%.
Do you remember Poets Hall? Are you, I don't want to bring age, but like Poets Hall, it used to be on the Lower East Side.
I don't think so.
That place was awesome. It's kind of hit a dead end there, but anyways, it was a awesome spot where the people around Erie, the poets, they would go and do their spoken word poetry, and it just made me think of it. It was a super awesome place, and I'm bummed that it's not around anymore.
Yeah, I know they're trying to do a lot of new things to revive the poetry community, and it's just always a matter of finding space, getting the word out.
Yeah, marketing is a big challenge for sure. And
100%.
I think that there's like a certain stigma behind poetry maybe for people. Mm-hmm. That, you know, it's feminine, or it's this, or it's not a strong way to portray your feelings, or it's weakness, or it's whatever. And I think that overcoming that societally is its own type of challenge.
Oh, 100%. And even in some of the spaces I've been already, when I show people, like, you can get on this stage in front of this microphone, say maybe 5 lines, be done with it, and people are still going to clap for you. Because, like, it doesn't have to follow us. Again, it doesn't have to follow a rule. Just say how you feel. And even if it's terrible the first time, you still got up and were brave enough to speak those words to people in a microphone where the focus is on you. Like, that's the important part, even if it's not quote unquote good.
Yeah.
Like, that's just part of the process of, you know, bringing it back and reworking it. I have a bunch of videos that my friends recorded of me, and I'm like, ooh, girl, we need to workshop that one.
Well, yeah. It's such a, I mean, any art that you perform or display to the public bears you a little bit, you know? Right. But poetry just seems to be like such an especially raw way to express yourself, especially spoken word, even written, but especially spoken word. Like, we've had people on the show that, you know, will literally get up and rhyme to their music as a band, but they'll say, if there wasn't that music up there and I wasn't singing, and if I was just talking, I couldn't do it. It'd be terrifying. I think that's like a barrier to a lot of people to go on like that raw of a level, even if it's in front of like, you know, 10, 15 people. Right.
I feel like the instrumental part of it is almost like that moral support friend.
Sure, no, absolutely.
So yeah, because it's like, it's just your voice, and however you read it, that's just how it's going to come out until you figure out how you want to read it. So, like, even if you are just, like, reading off your phone, and then depending on, like, what you wrote about, it can like bring you right back to that time when you wrote it, and like you can just have this wave of emotion. It's just its own experience in itself, so it makes sense why people may like shy away from it, especially with society, how it's become so taboo, looked down upon to like be raw and to be vulnerable and to just be authentic. And a lot of people think authentic is just, you know, like being in your face confident. No, authenticity is like, you know, I'm having a shit day, but like I still love myself, or like that is what it is. I'm having a shit day. Okay. And then the next day, maybe that's a good day, or maybe it's a string of bad days, but you still matter nonetheless.
Right. And I think that with that, the pressure and the uncomfortability of stepping in front of a microphone or on a stage or wherever, presenting a part of yourself that you've worked on to other people, comes a different layer of growth or of change or of vulnerability that people may not experience if they keep it to themselves. I feel like a lot of the really important things that I've learned or that I've said, I had like some sort of outside pressure pushing on me to make this other part come out. You know what I mean? And I think that, you know, performing in any way, whether it's poetry or music or writing a book or podcasting, making a movie, anything like that, that pressure gets applied so a new part can come out. You know what I mean? If we're trying to keep ourselves in like the pressure cooker of our brain or of our body, eventually it's going to burst. And I think that how we allow it to burst makes a huge difference in ourselves and how we view ourselves and how we treat ourselves and how we learn about ourselves.
100%. That was so well put. Especially your analogy or your metaphor for basically being like, you're not going to get anywhere inside your comfort zone. So like, how are you going to move out of that? Because that's where the growth and the change happens.
Yeah. And that comes from a lot of my own experiences doing things that make me extremely uncomfortable. Like polar plunges and going to these Lakota sweat lodges where it's so fucking hot that you like can't think of anything else. And it's crazy because like, you know, you're sitting there and it's hot and you're with a bunch of other people and like they're saying stuff and you're thinking about things and people will start like crying because they're like, oh my God, I'm going through this right now. This little bit of a jab of uncomfortability kind of unlocked this new door into my emotions or my feelings or how I'm getting through this situation that I'm in.
Yeah, I've never done those. I just don't like being extremely hot or
Nobody
extremely
does, dude.
cold.
You describe my like own personal hell.
That's like the whole point though, is to make yourself uncomfortable and to put yourself in these positions and to survive and to come through it and to build tolerance for other things that are not as bad as being in a 3,000 degree sweat lodge or a 34 degree river.
3,000? There's no way it's 3,000.
No, it's not 3,000. It's definitely close to 200 though.
200? Okay. That's interesting. He's been trying to get me to go to him for years and
You couldn't pay me enough.
yeah. I mean,
a lot of people wouldn't. And that's another thing that's really interesting because to me, it's something that I love and something that I enjoy. And when somebody talks about it, I get like, ooh, excited. You know what I mean? Good for you, blah, blah, blah. And for another person that's like, oh, I'm not doing that. Like when I talk about doing these isolation periods or these fasts and not eating or drinking for a period of time and completely cutting myself off from all outside activities, people are like, why the fuck would you ever do that? But it's applying that pressure and building that tolerance to the things that are not as bad. And it's also like getting in touch with yourself because when you're in those situations, a lot of things really disappear. You know what I mean? A lot of the mundane bullshit that we deal with throughout our lives just is not fucking present in my head anymore. And I can actually think or be aware of the things that are important, which is really special and beautiful in its own way.
yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I just, not my thing.
Yeah.
No, that's valid. And while you were talking, I had like the comparison to like poetry where it's like, you know, Dave and I are sitting here like, no, I would never do that. But you're like, yeah, maybe you had apprehensions before, but like now that you did it, you're like, I love it. Like I I got so much out of it. And I feel like that's the same way for people with poetry.
Absolutely.
When I was hosting open mics at Basement Transmissions, I had a few people, they're like, hey, Jayna, like, I wrote this, but, like, I don't know if I'm going to go up there. I was like, just do it. Just do the damn thing. But I'm scared. Do it scared. I was like, I'm shaking in my boots half the time when I'm
Right.
up there. And then they get up there, they're like, oh, my God, like, that was so cathartic. And you almost become, like, obsessed with it. It's a lot more comfortable than, like, a 200-degree sweat lodge, but...
Or a 30-degree river.
Yeah, or maybe it won't be. But that brings up an important thing I was going to bring up, like, because I don't think Tony would have, you know, I don't know the specifics. I've heard things, but I don't know if you would, like, dig a hole and, you know, start a fire and sit there by yourself in 200-degree heat if there wasn't a community that brought you in there first
100%.
to do it. And it's kind of the same with what you have going on in like the Words with Friends thing. Like it's so important to have the support network.
Right.
You know, like there are very few people out there, regardless of how, you know, talented they are, that will just go up and do something like that or dive headfirst into an activity that just pokes at vulnerability without the support of other people.
Yeah, I completely agree. Community is so big in any uncomfortable endeavor. It's what brings us back to reality, and it's what lets us know that it's possible. Because if Jayna may not have read her poem first, or if somebody may not have seen her do it, then they might not even be aware that they had the opportunity to do it themselves.
Oh, 100%. And even with like self-publishing my book, everybody's just like, oh my God, like how much money did that cost you? Like I could never do that. Like that's just such a far out aspiration. And I'm like, no, like I did it myself. It didn't really cost me much. Like I'll show you how to do it. Like these things are possible. But like you said, you never know what is possible until you meet other people.
Yeah.
It's really cool with it's kind of like, well, not kind of, exactly like Everything at Once. You know, this is something that the low barrier of entry that technology provides allows people to try new things. The same with like the self-publishing for a book. If it was like 25, 30 years ago, it would be a lot more expensive of a project to try to do something like that. So it's a cool technological age we're living in where you can like put together a book, put together a podcast, you know, make music and have a very low overhead cost.
Yeah.
Right. And even like we were talking about before, like you can teach yourself basically anything on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
It's a huge asset. And that like social community of the internet is its own, you know, asset and its own community, and it can help people. And it's just really cool to see people out there and the things that we're able to do today. You know what I mean? And that people are pushing their own limits and saying fuck you to the system. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I can't
Heavy
get a
on that
publishing
one.
deal. I can't do this. I can't do that. Well, fuck you. I'm gonna do it myself. And yeah, it may cost me some money and it may not make a profit or whatever, but I'm fucking doing it because I want to do it. And having like that self-assuredness and that confidence or whatever, or like even just the willingness to put the money away and say it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I'm doing this because I want to do this. And having enough value in yourself to put your money where your mouth is.
100%.
Yeah, I really admire that about a lot of people, especially lately, because like as we go through all of our progression here in the studio, at first I'm like, oh, we're gonna buy really, really cheap shit and we're going to borrow a bunch of stuff, and it's not really going to cost that much, to the point where we're, you know, we got really high-end equipment and high-end gear, and it's cost thousands upon thousands of dollars easily, and we're making a movie, and it's probably not going to make any money at all. And
that's a lie.
It's
Manifesting.
Right.
Manifesting.
Well,
yeah.
at first, the thing was I looked at all these things as investments. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, well, you know, if I get this nice camera, I'm going to book tons of photography gigs and I'll make $1 million. I'll quit my day job, which is all still a possibility. But I've accepted that if that doesn't happen, and if these just end up being cool things that I have now and get to fuck around with, that is completely okay. And if we don't make $1 million, even though hopefully, fingers crossed, we do, you know, Hollywood, I know you guys are watching out there, and you want to give us a deal to make a full-length feature, we're happy to do that. But if that doesn't happen and I waste a ton of money, it doesn't fucking matter. You know what I mean? It doesn't. There's always more money, you know?
Well, and we all have to start somewhere is always the biggest part too. And being focused on the process and not the outcome, which is something I am still learning.
Oh my
I
God,
say
yeah.
with gritted teeth.
Right. And I always think my ideas are so fucking good too, because I don't know. I'm an idiot. I'm egotistical. I'm whatever. But I'm always like, oh, dude.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. I got this figured out now. This is going to be amazing. All these people are going to love it. They're going to pay me for all this shit. And I'm going to make $1 million. And I'll quit and my job and all this other stuff. And the reality is I'm always like sourly disappointed and hit with like a serious reality check that it's not, that I don't make $1 million.
The most of the time, I'm like 100% with
Dave's
you.
super optimistic about everything that we do. I'll just keep
super.
it straight with you guys. Dave is always really optimistic. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I'm always like, no, it's going to fucking suck.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, no, it's going to make $1 million. So there's like all these conflicting things going on in my brain, because I'm just not a super grounded, rational human being.
When was the last time you did one of those lodges or the river?
Not frequent enough, probably.
Yeah, because it's like, it's a weird thing. It's like, I got this great idea, and I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then we're doing it for a while, and I'm like, man, we're killing this, or you're killing this. And he's like, no, I'm not. I said, this just happened last week. I won't talk about exactly what it was, but he was like, Tony was like, I'm not really that great. And I'm like, dog, you got to look at stuff. But then conversely, every great once in a while, he'll throw an idea my way, and I'll immediately challenge it because I don't think it's a good idea. And like, he just gets this look that he's gonna, you know, slap me from across the table. Like, how dare you shoot down my
Right.
$1 million idea, you know?
See, it's maintaining the optimism is where I struggle. When the results don't meet my expectations, that's when I fucking suck.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, and it's trying to find that balance, because a lot of times when it's like, oh, I believe in this $1 million idea, like that is what's driving you. But like you said, when you don't get the results, or it didn't go like it was in your head, you're like, oh God, like this, I should have never done this. Like, what am I gonna do? Especially if you're pouring all this money into it, you're like, well, shit, now I'm broke.
Yeah, fuck.
It's an interesting maybe it's always been like this. It's just like social media makes us hyper aware of what everyone's doing, but there's like this weird perversion or like cross nowadays between like passion projects and the hustle culture we live in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, every side project or hobby has to be like a money-making endeavor now.
It has destroyed my mental health. Like, I'm not even gonna try to sugarcoat it. And that's been something I've been trying to do lately, is create for the sake of creating. Not, oh, let me hurry up and finish this, post it on social media, and hopefully it'll make me go viral and I'll be famous and rich and I never have to have a day job again. Because like, we see that, but we also don't see the side of when those people crash and burn, especially if it's something that isn't, you know, long term, or it can't be sustained long term. So yeah, trying to unlearn hustle culture and live like the slow life is an ongoing process.
Right. And half the time, I feel like when we see these people that are wildly successful, we don't see the years of effort that have gone in behind that success.
Right.
You know what I mean? You just see the end result where you're like, oh my God, this dude's famous. This person's publishing books or acting or doing whatever they're doing. And you miss that whole lead up period because you just weren't aware. You didn't know it existed. You didn't know it happened. Or maybe I feel like my perspective has shifted a lot in this too, because I would be supportive but internally disparaging when I'd see somebody doing some sort of creative adventure. I'm like, oh, that'll never work, or that'll never make money. Like, what are you doing? Because it is that hustle culture, you know what I mean? It's like every side project or every endeavor has to be like making money.
It's hard to wrap your head around sometimes when a person's like, well, I'm just doing it because I like it.
Yeah.
You know, and actually mean it, you know, like, but like the other side of things, you know, you put all this time and effort into it, and like you build this social media presence, and like you're your own, you know, I said it earlier, like brand ambassador. But then like you have like a breakdown and you're reading like one of your poems or something on TikTok while you're just like a total fucking mess. And then it ends up getting like 1 million views, you know? Like, social media is so goddamn frustrating.
Yeah, and so like we have the one side of it where it's like, you know, people put years of work into it and it's like, that's great. Or even like where we're all kind of feeling it's like, I'm putting my all into this, or, you know, maybe I am only putting half because the like fear of being seen, or like the fear of success rather than the fear of failure. Sure. That's a rabbit hole I can go down in a second. But there's that side of it. And then the side that has been a little bit more frustrating to me is the people who get famous for stupid shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm like, what?
Especially like a lot of the people on like TikTok and Reels and stuff are just doing fucking dumb shit and incredibly famous. It's like right time, right place situation a lot of times.
Or like they don't actually care about themselves, like, you know, the drama accounts or like the gossip accounts, or just people doing those like prank videos and stuff where it's like they're not really good.
No, it's not something that you can really be proud of 10 years later.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't do anything to disparage other people. Like, that's where I draw the line with my personality.
Sure, of course.
But it's kind of like a low-key dream of mine to get famous on some dumb shit.
Where you don't have to actually put in a lot of effort or think about it.
Like someone,
and you just reap tons of rewards.
Like someone's at the Grand Canyon filming something. I'm in the background not even knowing I'm there, just doing something stupid. And they're like, oh, look at this idiot. Click, 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 click. I'm like, hey, I got a presence now. I'd be okay with that.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. But like the people who like destroy stuff, which just like ruins the environment, like the plastic stuff, or like children, I'm like, why do you need to be famous for opening a toy?
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of exploitation out there.
Oh yeah, especially like the parent accounts, like using their kids. I'm like, that's disgusting.
Yeah, and there's like exploitation of the algorithm too.
Oh
you know
yeah.
what I mean, like I used to get like Reels or TikToks or whatever where you'd listen all the way to the end for this great big unveil, and it's like the same. It's like clickbait culture. You know what I mean? You got to listen to the end because we're going to tell you something, and then actually the end is going to be in part 2. So you have to go
7 parts later.
Yeah, to finally get to where you're trying to go. And I think that it's just like it's exploitative of the user and the algorithm, and it's all just derived off like getting clicks, getting likes, getting profile views, getting people to come and see the ads on the website or whatever it is, and
or even any way to engage, because it's like a comment, a save, anything like that. It makes them money is how the TikTok works, I guess. I wouldn't know. 'Cause I
Well,
don't
it boosts
care
you in the
enough.
algorithm, and then you get more
Right.
views.
Yeah, I mean, you get like I don't do it anymore. Like I absolutely hate clickbait titles for leads for articles. It'll be like, this is the reason why Leonardo DiCaprio won't date a woman over 25, and then you click on the article and then it's just like, well, because he's never dated one. And I'm like, God damn it. You know,
And you have to go through
not
like hoops and valleys to even get to it. Like all these ads pop up.
Sure.
or they'll do like
There's lots of news articles too where they
Right.
just put like the most inflammatory headlines ever, and then you read through the article and it's like, oh, actually,
it's not
okay.
that bad. Well, no, I won't go down that nerd rabbit hole of mine as to why that's a big deal, but it's just very, very annoying, and you gotta learn how to play the system.
Right.
So you like gotta do something you enjoy, and put the time and effort into that. And unless you're, come from money, I'd imagine you got to work full time too, so you're already exhausted. And then on top of all that, if you want to like make it doing something you enjoy, you got to learn how to exploit the system as well.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with my friend earlier. We were talking about just like, the job market right now. And we just got on this tangent of like a lot of the people that are in positions of power and are rich, like it's lying, manipulation, exploitation. It's like, that's just not me. Like,
sure.
I don't want it that bad, actually. So, yeah, it's just creating those boundaries with social media. Because, like, literally right before, we were like, oh, social media can be this great community space. And, like, it offered me a lot of support, I feel like, in my teenage years. But, again, if you don't have that balance, it can become a very toxic thing.
Sure.
I think the only thing really left, and I don't know if they do it, well, I'm sure they do, but I'm thinking more Facebook. The only places left where they're like really positive spaces are like private groups.
Oh,
You know-
100%.
you
Like
know,
Discord chats. That's where I see a lot of TikTok influencers. They end up moving, especially if they're influencers about topics like mental health. I was in one of those Discord chats, and that's actually how I met my best friend. So, yeah, trying to use exploit the platform, get your audience, and then move them to wherever you want.
Yeah, I love Discord for that reason, because it really is like a community tool, you know what I mean? And you can produce your content on there, put your content out on there, and not have to fight the algorithm. But the hard part is accumulating that audience, because I can't just put up a Discord and hope people will come to it without somehow marketing it to
Right.
my target demographic. We have a Discord for this
We do.
podcast or this company, but no one really uses it other than me every now and then. And I try to make I was trying for a while to make a dedicated effort to start using it more and to start driving people towards it, because I'm just like a huge proponent of Discord in general.
Besides I don't know if he still listens like he used to, but besides our at least former #1 fan, Todd,
Yeah.
we see you. Yeah, maybe you don't see us, but he was on that Discord. He was all about that.
There was a couple people, and the whole reason that I learned about Discord or what it was is through like gamer culture. And I see lots of Discords that are like wildly successful for different influencers and different streamers and YouTubers and all that stuff. And they're active and they're vibrant communities, but the hard part is getting people to move in that direction and to have like enough of a community or enough of a presence to be able to engage with it, or to keep people engaged, or to have the community engage with itself.
Right.
But it's a big challenge to move that direction. But I think that once people really start to get tired of social media, like it's just, to me, it's really pushing people away. And maybe it's not, I don't think that's what the numbers said, because Facebook just had record-breaking profits this year at their annual or quarterly press conference or whatever it is they do at the stock market. But there's got to be some sort of way to allow people to engage with what they want to engage with in an ethical way that doesn't just give them the most popular shit. Like, it for a long time it was like, okay, my friends and family, this is a good way for me to communicate with them, and now it's just the it's like pop radio except on Facebook now. You know what I
Literally,
mean?
it's like, okay, my cousin had a baby. Now there's an ad for something that I said out loud to my friend 3 days ago.
Right.
Okay, keep scrolling. You may know this person. Okay, one friend posts something, another ad, just like rinse and repeat. And it's like, do you even actually know how your friends and family are doing at
Right.
that point?
It's all just like suggested topics. Like, once you hit a certain point of likes and shares or whatever, they just feed that into anybody's algorithm that has shown an interest in that topic or that trend, that hashtag or that whatever. And I think that's really the worst part. And that's why I refer to it as like pop radio. You know what I mean? You can only break in, people will only hear you if you're a top 10 hit. You know what I mean? So you have to be a top 10 hit on the social medias, or maybe not quite a top 10 hit, but like, you guys get what I'm going. There has to be a certain amount of engagement or likes or comments or shares or whatever before you actually start breaking into the new people.
Right. And like the repetition where you said like the radio metaphor, you have to tune in at the right time, at the right place to get certain pieces of information.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not going to see the same people at 8 in the morning as you are going to be at 8 o'clock at night.
Right.
And that has been like our own little process of trial and error too, to try to figure out when our people are on to maximize our engagement with our posts. You
Yeah,
know what
I
mean? Like,
remember when I was doing social media for like business a few years back, like there were specific times of day, and they were like really odd times of day, but like that's what statistics were showing when people were logging on. But I do think you have a really good point of like, people are getting sick of it. Like, we're hitting this collective dissatisfaction and overconsumption, and the only reason they're still having those high numbers is because we're addicted to it.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Like, I will find myself scrolling. I don't even care what I'm looking at. It's the act of scrolling is what I'm addicted to, or like having my phone. It's so hard to break that. Because then there's also FOMO, like the fear of missing out. It's like, well, I might miss something, especially when that's becoming how we're all getting our news sources.
Right. Yeah, nobody's really talking to each other anymore.
Well,
Well,
that's-
people are, but like, I see.
They're talking at each other.
They're talking at each other. It reminds me of. You watch South Park.
Oh yeah.
So it reminds me of the one episode where they're in San Francisco and the people are like farting in the wine glasses and smelling their own farts. Like, that's what social media is to me. It's just like, people just like, jerking themselves off and not having like conversations with others. That being said, I don't really do Facebook much anymore, but I'm constantly on Instagram, but I like funny stuff, and that's rotting my brain too. Like,
Sure.
I like watching funny little reels or like reading memes and
Yeah. And like, even back to the algorithm, it's like you have to kind of recalibrate it yourself sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
or even your friends can influence it. Like, I've been on my reels on Instagram and I'm like, why the hell did this video pop up? I would never watch something like that. And it's like, oh, if your friends sent you something similar, or if this is the stuff they watch, they think by association you want to watch it too. But I have seen a lot more of like the micro learning where it's like, the pottery videos or gardening. So it's like trying to get those to be in your feed. But again, the algorithm kind of works against them.
Yeah. I remember like setting up my algorithm for a while on TikTok when I just started using it, and like for the longest time all I got was thirst traps, like 90%.
And like
of
you'll
those.
get it so perfect and you're like, okay, great, like funny cat video, I'm gonna learn something cool, like okay, whatever. And then just like it revamps itself and it's like the thirst traps, and I'm like, when did I get on this side of TikTok?
Yeah.
Or it's like the opposite of my political beliefs, and I'm like, where's the stitch? I was waiting for a stitch to come up. Nope,
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong side. Help.
Yeah. No, and that happens all the time. I get it. It's annoying because my brain really has like a morbid curiosity about those kinds of things too. So like I'll end up watching the whole thing, and it's just because like it's hitting part of that instinctual part of my brain that tells me to be an apex predator, or tells me that I need to reproduce, or tells me that I need to, you know, get angry or get riled up about something. And that's really what it's becoming, you know, is just finding ways to keep our brains stimulated and keep our eyes on that, because then they can show us more ads and they can make more money. And tailoring anything towards that, especially something that can be as destructive as like social media has become for a lot of people, is just really unethical to me. It's not like okay.
Yeah, it's definitely unethical. To an extent, but
like let's make heroin, but we'll put it on a screen on a phone and sell it to people.
Well, you don't even need to sell it. You sell the device, which people need, because they're like, hey, we are the lines of privacy, even between like personal life and work, are so broken down now that you need to have this phone so we can get a hold of you at any time, and you're expected to respond. Oh, and then on top of it, here's some free apps that you won't be able to ever quit, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to cut your product or their product in with our heroin, so that way people will keep consuming it.
And then I watch one Kid Rock video because I think it's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. And then for the next month, it's just like a full feed of stuff that I
like
do
you
not
think
want
you
to watch.
escape it and it comes back. Or even like my TikTok will go through periods where it'll show me like stuff from like 6 months ago. It's like all of my liked videos, and I'm like, where? Like I'm not in that section. Where did this come from?
Right. And there's so many stupid things that I feel like I need to watch, like microplastics, like the microplastic TikToks, or the capybara TikToks, or the balloon TikToks, or like any of these other things that may not be stupid, but it's definitely not like something that I would normally find entertaining or I would be watching.
Yeah.
But if it's here, I'm going to look at it. You know what I mean?
Right. And then, like, back to trying to create those boundaries, it's like, God forbid you're a small business or an artist trying to grow themselves. It's like, you have to be on social media. You have to be regular with it. It's like, if I didn't have those things, I'd go back to not using social media or, like, going dark. Because it's
sure.
like, you know you would feel better if you took a break from social media. But it's just that discipline with yourself and then, like, the goals you want to hit.
Right.
It's so... It even happens... Not with huge businesses, like you got like the Coca-Colas and stuff like that. Like they always have a social media presence, they're giants. But even like small businesses, that's more than just like one person operating on their own. But especially like artists or people operating on their own, you see so many profiles where it's like activity, nothing's been posted for 2 years. Like it's so easy for people to just give up and throw in the towel on the social media side of things.
It sounds so
100%.
nice.
It sounds so nice, but like I'm sure both of you have seen it so many times. Like we're like, oh, this artist looks cool. Let me, I see their stuff on the wall somewhere for sale. Let me check and see what they got on social media. Oh, they haven't posted since 2019. I guess they're still doing artwork, but like, yeah, it's just a struggle. It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to be somebody that I'm going to follow.
Yeah.
Necessarily, you know what I mean? If I look and see an artist and they haven't posted in a few years, like I'm probably not going to follow them. I might admire some of their old stuff, but I'm not bringing any new business to them or any new support to them.
You'd have to imagine that while they were going hard at it, there still weren't people following.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's cases where, they do have a nice thing going and they're like, fuck this social media stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
after
not
a
doing
certain point, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Once you've built that community and established that level of engagement, and you can just put stuff out and the people know, but you're also not going to grow a whole lot.
No. So to take a wild
Until other people start doing your marketing for you.
Until other people, then that's their problem.
That'd be a dream.
Well, what I mean by that though is that I'm producing a product that people just like enough to post about it themselves.
Right.
But that's more of like sometimes it's not even that they like your stuff, it's that other people like it and they want to look cool, which again, goals, hashtag. I know, but to take a wild right turn out of this rabbit hole we've gone down, speaking of community, we used to have a very vibrant book club that died a very slow death. Right. And but we're bookish people, and I want to hear about the bookmarks you were talking about.
So the bookmarks that I created are graphics that I made using photos that I took. The one photo I think I took last year, and the other one I took a few years back. So that was kind of my first area of design with using my photography. And then I think I want to put either poems I already have or poems I want to create, or like little short quotes or something to just complement, things that I like, and to maybe help us all stop using our receipts, business cards, all of our makeshift bookmarks, which I love the resourcefulness, but to just add, a little bit of color or something. Cause I know that having a really cool bookmark, helps me with certain books that I read, especially the tassel ones.
Yeah. I like the tassel ones. I have a wooden one with, Alice in Wonderland quote on it. The one that's like the, God damn it. It's like dream 1,000 impossible things or whatever thing. Don't worry about it. I look at it all the time.
That's
enough.
That's enough. But you know what? I love a good bookmark. But we've had this discussion before in our book club group chat that used to exist. I'm a real bastard. I earmark the page. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
shame.
That bothers a lot of people, but hear me out. Nothing, I'm a pretty reasonable person.
I'm
but
not.
Yeah, he's not.
They already logged off after you said
Yeah,
you earmarked it.
Yeah, I'm a pretty reasonable person, but very few things get me as upset as if as when I drop a book and my bookmark falls out of it and I don't remember what page. So if I earmark it, I don't have that issue.
Valid.
See?
Hear me out.
Be
the
less
baby
clumsy.
sticky notes.
Okay.
Use the baby sticky note on the side.
That's a good idea.
You could do that. Or you could get one of Jayna's sweet-ass bookmarks and just stop dropping your shit.
Well, see, here's the thing. I would 100% get a bookmark because I like supporting the homies, and I would use it, but I would probably still earmark my pages.
I would use
Hey, you're
it.
still supporting me, so do what you want.
Right. I like bookmarks. I think they're cool and great, but I lose things a lot. So I guess I should probably just stop losing things. If I'm going to tell you to stop dropping things, I should also stop.
I love the
losing things.
accountability, and you guys are okay, new goal. I love that.
Stop losing things. Because I'm definitely a receipt or a leaf or something that I find, paper towel, whatever, to mark my books. And Celinda has nice, my girlfriend, she has nice bookmarks, and I get a little jealous when I see her reading and having her nice bookmark, and I want to touch it and all that other stuff. So
Now's your chance to get a nice bookmark.
my chance to get a nice bookmark.
Heck yeah. And you get a free sticker with it.
What?
Yeah.
I have a serious sticker collection upstairs on my coffee table.
They're so addicting.
I like stickers.
Especially during flea market season in Erie, which y'all, if you haven't experienced it, you need to.
That's right.
Free stickers galore. I immediately, they're yes, we have all this stuff, but stickers. I was you know how to get us in.
Right. That's another marketing, though.
Carolina Cruz. She
gave us stickers.
She gave us stickers when she was on last time to promote
her book.
The Forgotten Lyric. and we were so jazzed about that.
Stickers are
It's
dope.
the little things. I feel like it like hits our like inner child when we used to get stickers,
It's a
especially like,
little
if we
reward.
did good on a test.
Yeah.
Right, like a gold star, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the small victories in any endeavor and the slight progress, especially when you're taking on new and difficult challenges, whether that's writing a book or a poem or a podcast or making a movie. Learning to appreciate those small victories, even though they may not live up to your expectations.
Right. I don't think we got down a few rabbit holes. What is the book about that you...
Is it poetry?
Is it
Yes,
poetry?
it is a poetry book. The title is Exposure.
Okay.
It is a collection of poems that I've written in the last, well, I think it's been more years than the years I've been telling people. Basically since like 2016, 2017, up until its published point of just, traumatic events that I've experienced, the growth along the way, just really touching on my own personal experiences with mental health and, using that as my extra form of therapy. Obviously, I went to real therapy. But using that to express myself, and then along the way of writing it, I'm like, well, maybe people are going through the same thing. And then I would meet people who were going through the same thing. So that would just add to like, maybe I should publish this one day. And now that she's been out, because I personify inanimate objects, I refer to it as my heart in people's hands. But it's almost been a year now. April will be a year, and I've had a lot of good reviews lately, and people saying it really hit home, even if they only read a few of them or if they read the whole thing, which that means so much more to me than like any monetary value.
Where can they get it?
They can get it at Pressed, or they can get it at Werner Books,
Awesome.
or
Fantastic.
via me.
Yeah. Or message Jayna. This has been really fun.
Yeah.
This has been a treat and a pleasure.
Yeah, we've been all over the place. We went on a wild ride today, just as always, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Jayna, thank you so much for coming down and hanging out with us and being part
it's been
of
fun.
this lovely experience. Check out Jayna's book at Werner or Pressed, or DM her, and see us at Words with Friends. And come read your poems, read your stories,
And
build
don't...
community. Talk with people that are not on the internet.
Right.
Literally, just
Right.
talk to us, because just talking is words with friends.
That's words with
Exactly.
friends.
Exactly. And remember one more thing.
What's that?
You don't have to rhyme.
Yeah.
If you see
You don't
him,
even have to write poetry.
I won't comment on that, but also remember to check out the KARANORMAL Indiegogo if that's still up when this episode airs, and buy tickets to the premiere, or just message me and get tickets to the premiere. There's tons of them. It's going to be amazing. We love all of you. We love our sponsors, all of our Patreon people, all the people who have bought tickets already. And y'all are amazing, and you're in for nothing but more amazing things from us here. Thank you guys. Peace.